I don't think it's a far stretch that we eat feral animals at all. The meat should be used. It's one of the solutions. It's not the total solution, but it's certainly one of them.
Morning, girls and boys. Well, I've been in the meat business since I was just on 14 years of age. I'm 64 and a half now, and I love the business. There was nothing in meat that I wouldn't get. One of my favourite customers was an Asian fella who was having Chinese New Year, needed a snake, and I went out hunting till I found one for him. The trick was, if you needed something, you came to Mr. Flesh. The reality is that we still live off our staples. Our staples are beef, lamb, pork and chicken, but Australians are far more adventurous that have to have emu and crocodile and wild boar, you name it, and they want to taste it. So kangaroo is without doubt the most humane meat that's being processed on this planet, because it's shot from a distance, doesn't know what's about to happen to it. If an animal lives a free-range life, it's the best meat for you, because it's not sitting idle in a shed fattening itself up and becoming obese. We came to this country, and because they were so plentiful, we only used it as pet's meat. It was criminal. Wallaby is very mild in sales because it's very, very new, but kangaroo's been around since the early 80s, and so that's had a following, and it's such a lean, free-range meat, the tourists go nuts for it.
One of the biggest challenges for the kangaroo meat industry was we're eating Skippy, we're eating our national emblem.
Good on you, Skip!
And it's a cringe factor associated with eating this product. And a lot of people really put off by that. But at the end of the day, it's another meat product. And some people are very comfortable with not worrying about the type of animal that they're eating.
Hi, just one camel burger, please.
I'm quite happy to go with the taste, go with the adventure, and experience new tastes.
We've been exporting horse meat from Australia for the last 45 years, okay, legally with the government approval. But we don't eat it here. There's 20 countries throughout the world that have horse as a part of their natural diet. The only way they could get horse in this country is to buy from a pet shop. In 2010, a sympathetic minister gave permission for a limited amount of product to be made available. Oh-ho! Hello, you little beauty. In the initial stages, I was getting about 4,000 emails a week, of which maybe 500 were death threats. This is genuine Australian horse meat. In our store, we like to call it cavallo. It's a softer name, not as confronting as the word horse. We now call ourselves the Horse Whisperers, because you come into the shop, I never have it on display. I don't have pigs' heads on display either, because they offend people. We don't talk about where we're butchering it. We don't want them having demonstration. If they ate it without spices, the most that they would notice is that there's a slightly sweet aftertaste. But while you're eating it, it tastes like lovely succulent beef. It's noted for having a very, very high iron content and very much sought after. It's not the product that's supposed to be making me rich, but it has made me infamous. Australians have a love affair with horse, but technically speaking, they treat them like dirt. I think it's quite hideous that they will shoot them from a helicopter and leave them lying on the ground. They are a food source. Why should they be wasted? Because it's not as good as farmed cattle or farmed sheep doesn't mean that the meat's no good.
Eco-culinary activism is a term and a concept that refers to using invasive animals as a foodstuff in a way where people will want to consume them and therefore will address ecological problems. So in terms of invasives, cane toads are really kind of the apex invasive in that they've bred prodigiously and spread across Australia. But an invasive can be turned around into an asset.
Cane toads, there's one. I think there's a lady up in Darwin that's trying to figure out how she can get cane toad flesh into the marketplace. Great idea. Why shouldn't we start using that resource? It's a pest. And we should be eating pests.
So we're just going around the garden and then the lagoon to try and find some cane toads. I think this time of year they're hanging out in little crevices, like under the rocks in cool spots. There's one. They're pretty easy to catch. Whoa. Spoke too soon. So my name's Emma and I work in conservation and land management in the top end, but I'm also very interested in local food, and one of the things we've been cooking is cane toads. A lot of people eat meat and other food products and they don't really question where it comes from. So I think eating a feral animal that you've got yourself, you've seen how it's killed and you prepare it yourself is much less strange. When we say we've tried eating cane toad, some people think it's pretty gross and they wouldn't do it because it's poisonous and because people have built up this relationship where they really dislike them and they try and get rid of them. There's no size limits when it's a feral animal, you want them all gone. But these are big ones, got some juicy legs on. When we cook the cane toad, we're only cooking their legs, and that's all we've tried because we don't want to risk being near the poison gland. So I don't know anyone that's got sick from eating them, and I certainly haven't, but I can't say I eat them every single day. Maybe there should be a disclaimer. If you tried at home, it's not our fault.
Research is still needed on this because we know if you kill a cane toad quickly and take the skin off, you reduce the amount of toxin that could possibly get into it. But there's still some evidence there's residual traces at particular times. Once we can ensure that, there's a huge export market for it because they're so productive and there's a global shortage of frogs and toads. In Indonesia, for example, they've eaten out a number of species.
So we've got the cane toad legs ready to go. And I'm just going to marinate them with soy sauce, ginger, garlic, chilli. Yep, they're done. So we finished stir frying them and it's just garnished afterwards with a bit of spring onion, chilli and sesame seeds. And we've got some new people to eating cane toad to try it out.
Queenslander eating cane toads?
Queensland. They're nice.
Is there much meat on them?
Yeah, there's a surprising amount. There's lots of, like they're little bones, but
I can't believe I'm doing this.
it's good gear.
Tastes like chicken, hey?
There's nothing wrong with that.
KFC.
It's just like it's
Kentucky
just like a chicken
Fried
wing.
Toad. Cane toad.
Yeah, I think it needs a new name.
Yeah, you need to rebrand it for some, give it a more glamorous name than cane toad.
Maybe
Marine quail.
I think there is room for cane toads on the menu, but it's not necessarily going to be a mass market. So Australians are becoming a lot more open-minded to trying different things, like whether it be camel, whether it be horse, maybe even cane toad.
I'd never thought of eating cane toad, and my immediate thought would be probably like other people eating cat, yuck. But then I think, wait a minute, we eat oysters and we eat snails and we eat all sorts of stuff. Meat is meat, and if it's going to serve a purpose of helping the environment, we should be eating all the cane toads we can. My name is Kay Kessing. I live in Alice Springs and I'm an illustrator and a writer. I'm inspired by the country basically. the love of the country and slowly becoming aware over the years of the terrible danger that feral animals are causing to the Australian environments. Not enough people actually do realise what the feral cats are doing out in the bush. It's a killer by instinct, which you can't help, but that's what it is. To make a point about the problem that feral cats are causing right across Australia, I cooked a catterole in the Bush Foods competition. Aboriginal mob out bush have eaten cat for a long time. It's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. When I actually dealt with the first cat corpse, I thought as I scun it, this is sweet meat. I'd describe it as a mix of chicken and goanna. When I cooked the catterole, there was a lot of flack arose. It got into the major papers and it appeared overseas, and there were even veiled death threats, and they threatened to burn my books outside the bookshops. Yeah, people just have to get over their emotion. They have to realise, you know, the danger that the critical danger that these animals are causing, and have a look at a tiny little lamb. They're the cutest little things, and we eat it, and we don't think twice about it.
The cringeworthiness factor around eating cats is going to be a phenomenal thing to overcome. We've got an animal that we associate with very different things other than eating them. I think it's going to be a very long time before we see cat on the menu in Australia.
We are carnivorous by nature, and as long as things are grown with humane efforts and slaughtered totally humanely, I see nothing wrong with eating flesh for us to survive as a species. Until something organic doesn't need to eat something organic to survive, we're stuck with the system that exists.